Hey everyone, this is Sean Manaher and RJ Adams with the Author Hangout. Today our guest is Kim Martin from JiraPublishing.com. Kim, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great, good to have you. And we're going to get right into it. So please tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into book publishing.
Well, it started out over 15 years ago. I was a web designer. I was doing website design, and one of the websites I developed was a poetry website. And we had like a community of poets. They'd post their poems. We'd comment on them. And one day they came to me and says, "We want to publish a book of poetry. What do we do?" And of course I had no idea. So I went and started doing research and said, "Oh, I found the answer. We're going to publish a book using this method." And the company we chose was a nightmare. The book looked horrible. Everything they promised us, they didn't follow through with, and it was just a disaster. And so, just the kind of person I am, I'm like, I need to know everything there is to know about self-publishing. This is obviously the wrong way. What's the right way? So I started learning everything I could. I started a website to share that knowledge, and then each year we put out more books of poetry, and I took over the whole thing. Eventually, people started coming to me and asking me directly, "Hey, can you help me with my book? You seem to know what you're doing." And over 15 years later, this is where we're at now. So that's what got me started, falling into the trap that a lot of self-publishing authors fall into and finding a way out of it.
And now we connected through your business, which is
Yes.
Jira Publishing, right?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about Jira Publishing.
Well, we're kind of a one-stop shop for self-publishing authors. I have a team of what I call self-publishing specialists. So we do everything from the editing to the interior design, the ebook design, the covers. I do consulting with authors one-on-one. We also do classes here and local classes as well as webinars. So anything you need to get your book done, we can take care of it.
Okay, and so you're mentioning that you're working with authors and
Yes.
you're helping them publish their books. So how much easier is it to publish a book now than it was just a few years ago, even with your book of poetry?
Oh, well, going back that far, well, a lot of it is, as soon as the print-on-demand technology made itself available, that opened up the doors to a lot of authors. But that was more like over 10 years ago. More recently, you're looking at social media. The hardest thing about being a self-publisher is the marketing, as you well know. And social media has really opened up that door, allowed you to reach a much wider audience than you would before those tools existed. Ebook technology has really opened the doors as well, using ebooks as a publishing method versus just print. It just allows you to get your book and who you are in front of authors a lot easier now than it used to be. You still got to do the basics. You still got to get it edited. You still got to get it laid out. Everything that they were doing over 10 years ago, you still have to do. But now it's a lot easier to reach your audience, to reach your market.
And what goes into the process of trying to reach your market in terms of what should an author be doing in order to reach their market today?
The very first thing you do is you need to define who your target market is. And your target market, people get confused when you say target market. It's not, hey, who wants to buy my book? It's who do you want to focus your energy and your time and your money on to reach? Who's most likely to buy your book? So you need to develop, who your target market is. You need to define your goals. You need to get your platform built. You've got to have the basics down before you do anything else. So you got to get your website built. You got to get a blog, an email list, get on the social media platforms, get those tools in place before you start looking into other avenues, maybe like a video book trailer or things like that. And it is totally an ongoing process. You don't publish your book and then say, "Oh, now it's time to market." No, you got to start as soon as you thought, "Hey, I should write a book." Okay, how am I going to market the book? You need to kind of do them simultaneously.
Yeah. And backing up a little bit about with publishing, a lot of our audience are already self-published or they're in the process of. There's some people who are thinking about publishing a book. What does that process just to publish a book look like?
Well, I kind of have like my 6 steps to self-publishing, what you need to do. And the first thing I always say is before you do anything else, you need to educate yourself. What is self-publishing? What do you need to know? And if you're watching this, you're on the right track. You're not just jumping blindly into it. You need to define your goals. Now, the path you're going to take to self-publishing is not the same for everybody. It depends on what type of book you're doing, what are your goals. Is it just a one-off memoir you're doing, or do you plan a whole series of books? Do you want to become a best-selling author? You need to know that. And then you need to set up your business. You may need to get your ISBNs. You need to establish a business publishing company name. You need to get all your legal paperwork in order and all the red tape taken care of. And then if you're still writing your book, of course, you got to get your book finished, which means you also need to get it edited. Once you got your final draft done, you're going to have to get it, the design part of it done, the interior layout, the cover design, the ebook formatting, and then you need to look at the how you're going to print and distribute it. So hopefully you've already established that, or you're going to use a print-on-demand place such as Ingram Spark or CreateSpace, or you're just going to do offset. So then you get it published, you get it through the distribution channels, and then I'll say marketing is the fifth step, but really that comes into play throughout all those other steps. You've got to get the marketing done through all steps of that. So even though I say it last, it's through every process. Yeah, I hear it all the time. I'll have a class on marketing, and people come to the class, and I'm like, okay, what's the very first thing? And they're all saying, oh yeah, I published my book last week, and now I need to market. It's like, okay, so let's back up and start over.
Sure. In that publishing process, there sounds like there's a lot of steps, and,
yes.
And obviously that's why your publishing is around to help authors with that stuff. But what does it look like for an author? So I want to write a book on business. What's the process from the point of writing to actually getting it published? Is that a short period of time, or should somebody expect that it's going to at least take 3 months, 6 months, a year?
If you're hiring, well, the editing process is actually the longest process. You need, and something people forget a lot of times. They're like, okay, I want to have this published like in a month, and they'll start actually setting dates for launches and things like that, and then they take it to the editor, and they find, hey, the editor I want is backlogged for 3 months. So editing, you have to allow a lot of time. Sometimes it's a couple months to go through the editing process. And I do suggest you use a professional editor, or beg, borrow, and steal some editing services. But so you have to allow time for the editing. But if you have your final edited document, you take it to some place like us, and you say, here's my document. I need the formatting done. I need the cover done. I need the ebook done. Then we got to get it up there. If it's like a simple novel, we could turn something around in a few weeks. That's us. Some people, of course, are going to have longer turnaround times, things like that. Once you get it up to your publishing platform, say Ingram Spark, they actually can take up to 3 to 6 weeks to have your book show up on Amazon.com, from what we've been hearing. If you take it to CreateSpace, their turnaround time is a lot quicker. You can have the book up there in sometimes a few days. If you're doing an ebook only, after the ebook's done and it's loaded up onto, say, Kindle, they'll have it up in 12 to 24 hours. But the biggest mistake we see here with authors is they get to the editing stage, and then they're already setting dates for launches, they're already setting promotions, and so they rush the editing process to get the book launched in time, and they regret it later. So give yourself plenty of time to get through that editing process, to get through a quality book in hand. Don't start scheduling things out until it's past the editing stage. So otherwise you're going to be like, hurry up and get it edited, and then you put out something that's not as good as it could be.
Right. Very cool.
Well, it seems like a lot of steps just to go and to get a book published. But after you have that first book published, how important is it for authors to publish multiple books?
It's actually something, the most successful authors are the ones that have multiple books. If your goal is to become, have a series of books, have, a best-selling author, you're not going to do it off of one book. You may hear of one person who wrote one book and it became an overnight success, but what did they do? They followed it up with multiple books. Otherwise, their sales would have dropped off, and that would have been the end of it. So you got to get your second book, you got to get your third book, and a lot of marketing strategies, especially with ebooks, really depend on you having a second and a third book out there. So you use your first book as kind of a launching pad to get people into your second and your third book. A lot of people give up too soon. They get the first book out there, and maybe they didn't, become an overnight success with it. They're not a best-selling author off their first book. I mean, who is? And they give up. But if they'd just gotten that second book, or they just gotten that third book out there, they probably would have made it. So don't give up after your first book didn't make it. Just keep going.
We'll go a little off script here. Can you tell us the story of the series that you recently dove into as a reader?
Oh,
and
yeah.
That whole experience.
Well, it was a 12-book ebook series that I read in the last couple months, actually, and it really does work. I mean, I'd seen it kind of like, people who read this book also read, and I've been kind of keeping my eye on it, and they had like a free promotion to get the first ebook for free. So I got the first ebook, finished it, and at the end of the book, they said, hey, the next in the series is this one. I'm like, hey, I really like this one. I'm going to go get that second book. Second book wasn't free. Finished that one. Look, there's a third book, and I kept going. I didn't stop until I got to the 12th book, and there was no more books to read until they released, I think the next one's due next month or something like that. So, I mean, I went all the way back to like 2007, I think, was the first book when it was released, and I read all 12 books and was spending, so much money per each book. Now I'm like on an ebook budget. I haven't spent too much in the last month reading all those books. So I've been basically reading free ebooks recently, but they hooked me too. I'll read the free ebook. I'll see they have more books out there, and I'll immediately download the next one and download the next one. And I just recently signed up for an email list with somebody that I just finished 2 books, but her next one's not due out for a while, and I didn't want to forget about it, so I signed up for her newsletter. So when it's out, I'll remember.
Switching back, as you work with authors, Kim,
yes,
on a regular basis, what are the greatest challenges that they're facing when it comes to marketing their books?
A lot of it is, they know what they need to do, so they'll do it. So say someone is following all the steps they're supposed to do. They get their platform built. They get their newsletter set up. They've done everything they need to do, but then they're not getting anybody replying to their blog posts. They're not getting anyone engaging with them or following them on Facebook. No one's retweeting their tweets, or they've got they're asking people for reviews like they're supposed to at the back of the book, or they're just flat out asking people, and then maybe got 1 or 2 reviews on Amazon. But no matter what they're doing, they're not getting the response back that they want to get, and that can be very frustrating. But you just got to keep working at it, keep being patient, and try new things. If you've been posting the same type of thing on Facebook, switch it up. If you've been doing the same type of blog post, switch it up, or start networking with other, bloggers who are in the same genre. Maybe do an interview with them. They'll do an interview with you. And I've always asked the questions like, okay, you're saying you're not getting the responses back. No one's replying to your Facebook post. No one's responding to your blogs. Are you going to other people's blogs? Are you going to other people's Facebook pages that are influencers or share your genre? And are you commenting on their posts? So in order to get, you need to give a little bit. So that's kind of how to offset. But yeah, also it's time. They don't have time to really do all these things. They're like, I just want to write a book. I don't have time to do all this social media stuff, do all this blog writing articles, and I just want to write my next book. So it's frustrating. A lot of people are also introverted a little bit and jumping into I need to be a salesperson. I need to get you to buy my book. It's tough for them. So time, getting people to respond to the efforts that they actually are putting in place is what I hear a lot of feedback from.
Do you have any tips for that? Sorry. Do you have any tips for that introverted author? I'm sure you've encountered some with those that you've kind of helped get their book published. Are there any tips for them to kind of break out of that shell?
Start going to local other, you can go to meetup.com, find other writers groups or groups that, and just get out there. And if you're really, you just have to keep doing it. And just start talking about things you love, your book and things that drive you. You don't have to be a salesperson. Just talk about your book. Be real. People want to know about your book. What they want to know about your writing. I mean, me personally, I used to be extremely introverted. And here I am doing, an interview with, so you can get over it. I used to have extreme stage fright, but now I'm doing speaking. I'm going out and networking. I'm doing, podcasts. I'm doing interviews, and it really is just you're an interesting person. People want to hear what you have to say, and just put yourself out there. If you're really uncomfortable being that in-person thing, then use the social media. You can kind of hide behind a layer of protection there. Just really work the social media aspect of it. So it is tough.
Yeah, and I always find that offline networking is very similar to being social online, and I think that authors don't always connect that. That, you know, if you can network, or if you can meet somebody, sit
Mm-hmm.
down in a workshop, if you can just have coffee with somebody, it's the same thing. It's just on a different mechanism. It's a platform. It's on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, whatever. And authors are able to, or could, be able to take that mindset that, hey, I'm, like you said, I'm an interesting person. You know, maybe I have something to share, and people will listen given the opportunity and time that you recommend to put into it.
Right. And it is, you know, networking is, I think, a great tool that a lot of people overlook. Just start small in your local community. Look for networking opportunities that you can go to, either for writing or for business, depending on your book. A lot of opportunities you'll develop friendships. It's really what it is. Don't think about it as you're, you know, doing this big, huge, I'm out there kind of, you're just making friends. And that's what it comes to.
Yeah. So certainly we want to share a little bit about what you do to help authors, but for the self-starting author, for those that are listening, what tools do you use in your business to help authors market their books better?
What tools? When it comes to marketing, you know, some of it comes back to building the platform and things like that, and talking about social media and time. A lot of people are like, I don't have time to sit down there every single day and do all these social media posts. So there is a tool out there I use called Hootsuite, and it's a social media planner. You can get all your articles and all your posts together, like, say, once a week and schedule them out. So you don't have to be in front of your computer making those posts day in and day out at set schedules. Just get them all together one day, and you can say, I'm going to post this to Facebook on this date and time. I'm going to post it over to Twitter at this date. I'm going to post it over here, and you're going to just schedule it out all at once. Then you just need to sit back and follow through with the engagement on the posts. A lot of people struggle with getting the website set up. WordPress is a great tool. It's free, and it's fairly simple to use. You can always find someone to get some help with that too. But instead of having a website built from scratch, you might just start with a WordPress basic theme and a blog to get started. You need a newsletter, an email list, so MailChimp is a good tool to use to get that email list up there free for going. And if you're doing ebook promotions, it's really hard to manage it unless you're using the KDP Select on Kindle, because they have a lot of ebook promotion tools you can use in their interface. So those are some of the tools that I use to help make it easier for authors.
And you mentioned KDP Select. What are some of the, if you can, what are some of the tools that Amazon, through their KDP Select program, have available for authors?
Well, just being in KDP Select, it's going to get your book listed, so people who have Amazon Prime and a Kindle can download one ebook free per month. So you get that automatically. It's now also automatically enrolling your ebook into the Kindle Unlimited program, which is the new system out there. And even though people are downloading your book for free, you're still making a couple bucks every time, or whatever it is. It varies every time someone downloads your book. But it also lets you run the free ebook promotions, where you can set it up. You can plan a day in advance, and you say, I want my ebook to be free on this day. And you can do that through their system. And I think, if I remember correctly, you get 5 of those every 90 days, if I'm correct. And that's a really good marketing tool. Another one, you can do countdown deals, where instead of just having one free day, you can say, hey, on this day it's going to be 99 cents. Second day it's $1.99. The third day it's $2.99 until it goes back up to your regular price. So they're called countdown deals. But you also, when you sign up for that, you also get kind of like, outside of the Kindle Select, you can also get like an author page where you can keep track of some stats and stuff like that. But yeah, trying to run an ebook promotion without KDP Select it's a lot of work. Trying to manage it without that.
Do you ever recommend, or have you seen success in just running a KDP Select promotion and like doing nothing else?
As far as like for ebooks, I mean.
Yeah, where somebody, they said, I'm just going to use KDP Select and I'm going to run a Kindle countdown, and that's the only promotion I'm going to do. Is that effective or not really?
It can be, as long as you do it right. You have to get the notice out in advance. You have to you have to get people to know about it. If they don't know about it, it's not going to work. So you have to use some kind of, get your book out there to the subscription deal sites that they're going to announce and promote your ebook deal to everybody. You got to get it on Facebook. You got to get, you got to work on promoting it. You can't just run the deal and walk away. No one's going to know about it, and you just wasted your time. It works if you have more than one book. Because like I said, when I was talking about the series of book I read, I got one for free, which led me to buying 11 more books and waiting desperately for the next one. So if you have the multiple books, you have the first one you're running the promotion on, and the other ones you don't. And so it can be, it helps boost your sales rank, gets you more, and often people will see their sales spike after the deal is over. So it raises your sales rank, gets you more visibility, it gets you more reviews. So if you're only going to do the Kindle, if that's the only promotion you're going to do, you're not going to do everything else. It's worth it, but you got to have the basics down as well. You got to have the website, the blog, the Facebook. You've got to put more information about your book at the end of the ebook. One thing people forget about is like they've got that second book out there, but their first ebook doesn't mention anything about their second book. You've got to go back to your first book, change that last page in your ebook to mention, hey, you want to learn more? Here's my next book. Maybe a preview chapter or something to that effect of the next one. So every time you put a new ebook out, you've got to go back and update your previous ebooks to mention that.
A bonus question.
Okay.
Pen names or real
boy.
names? What's the verdict on that?
If your name is incredibly difficult to pronounce or to remember, you may want to consider a pen name. Other reason, it gets a little bit tricky if you're planning on doing any in-person marketing, because you have to then, especially if you're having a pen name as a female when you're actually a guy, that gets a little awkward. So you have to be real. So if you just change your name slightly, maybe an easier to spell and remember last name, people can do that, and it's often that they do. Another reason people will do that is if they write for completely different genres. So if they're doing romance and science fiction, they might write under different names for each, so there's no confusion amongst the readers about what this book is. But there are situations where it is really not needed, but if you're doing cross genres or you're doing a difficult name, you may want to consider it. I actually get asked that question a lot. Some people are doing it they're embarrassed. They're like, I don't want my colleagues to know I did a book, so they want to write under a pen name. I'm like, don't be ashamed of it. That's not a good reason to use a pen name.
Yeah, I wanted to see how this whole Amazon book publishing stuff worked out, and so I actually published a book under a fictitious name and created a name, and the book's still out there. It's still selling books, but it's not tied to my name in any way, and it's just interesting to see how people interact with that. And I was trying to do a test to see, can anybody do this? That is, even a fake person that doesn't even exist. Just create a book and publish it and sell some books, and it's selling some books. Yeah.
I have a couple books out there that I don't do any marketing for. It's under my maiden name. I don't do anything for, but I worked the search engine, like the keywords that are on it and the title that are on it, so people are searching for it. It's a nonfiction type of book, so people are finding it on Amazon, and it sells. I'm not making a ton of money off it, but yeah, people are buying it. I'm pocketing the money every month, and I just don't do anything with it. So it is possible to just get a book out there and don't do anything and make a little bit of money. But just think of what would happen if I really started to actually market those books and do something with them. Yeah.
And as the book industry or self-publishing is continuing to build momentum and people are really learning about it, you talked about keywords. So how does metadata play into all of this stuff? And people are starting to hear about that. So first off, what is metadata, and then why is it important for authors?
Metadata is kind of the stuff that's like keywords that are embedded either in your ebook or in your title or your description. Say if you're going to go to Amazon, especially true for nonfiction books, and you're looking for a book, say, on Adobe Photoshop. You want to learn how to use Adobe Photoshop. So you would go into the keywords and type in Adobe Photoshop. So Amazon's going to search your book title, your subtitle, your description, and your keywords and your tags to look for any books that have Adobe Photoshop in there. So you need to make sure that in order for it to come up in those search results that either your title has Adobe Photoshop somewhere in it, or your subtitle, or it's in your book description. And so if you don't have that anywhere in there, guess what? Your book is not going to be found. So if you're doing a nonfiction book especially, and for novels, if you're doing a book on, say, Western romance, you have to have, romance in not necessarily the title, but in the description especially, or maybe a subtitle that, a romance novel, something like that you have to have in that. And there is a place when you're submitting that you could, like if you're using CreateSpace or you're doing your ebook, to enter in actual keywords. So if there's additional keywords you want people to find your book under when they're doing a search, you can put them in there. So it's all about visibility and people being able to discover your book when they're searching for things.
Cool. RJ, you want to take it away with the last question?
Sure. So think about that brand new author who's just walking in to your doors and wants to start publishing either the book that they wrote or starting to write. What few things would you make sure that they do as soon as they walk out of that door from that meeting with you?
Well, the very first thing I would say is define your goals. Why are you publishing a book? What do you hope to accomplish by publishing this book? You need to set that down so you have a goal in mind. Because what someone writing just a one-off memoir about their grandma has no future plans to write any future books, and someone that's writing wants to become the next best-selling author and is going to write a series of novels, how they go about the process of self-publishing is going to be different. So define your goals, figure out what you want to do and why you're doing it, and then go and figure out who your target market is. You've got to have that. And then start going to educate yourself, take classes, talk to a self-publishing coach, whatever you need to do to learn what the right path for your book is. So that's the first question I ask people when they sit down is, tell me about your book and why you're writing it. I need that information to point them in the right direction. So that's what I would say is figure out what your goals are.
Great. Well, thanks, Kim. I really, really appreciate you being on the show today. And before we go, why don't you tell people where they can get connected with you or where you want them to go and visit you?
Okay. You can find us on the web at jerapublishing.com, which is JERA publishing.com. You can find us on Facebook at Facebook's /JeraPub. Twitter, it's at JeraPub. You can reach out to me, or just email us here at mail@jerapublishing.com if you want to reach out to us. So any of the normal tools to reach out to us, you can do that.
Great. Well, I appreciate it again, and thank you, everybody. This is Sean Manaher and RJ Adams with the Author Hangout. We'll see you on the next show. Are you confused about what you should be doing to promote your book? Luckily for you, our Ultimate Author Checklist is here to help.
We walk you step by step through building your book marketing engine so you can actively and passively sell more books.
Go to theauthorhangout.com/free guide to get our free Ultimate Author Checklist.